Uri woke to a crackling in his ear. He lay on the wooden floorboards, head pounding, as blood dripped from his scalp in lines down his face. He tried to open his eyes, only to be greeted by a bright, blurry light. His body wanted so badly to give in to the sleepy lull of his concussion. But the heat, dear God, the heat was unbearable. The crackling and dancing red and yellow light became clearer despite the pounding in his head. He coughed and smoke filled the air around him. The roar of the fire that engulfed the front of his shop snapped him from his wooziness. His memory came back to him. The man in a coat with dark eyes and a devilish grin. He did this. Panic overcame him as the severity of the danger sank in. The smoke stung his eyes and he coughed and coughed. He looked around to the front door and then the side door, only to see the flames soaring high before them. No longer a means of escape. His stomach dropped with a cold, sinking realization as he remembered his wife and child sleeping upstairs. He rushed to the staircase. A gasoline-led line of flames snaked from the front of the shop to the stairs. Flames enveloped the first 2 steps and crept their way up. The rest? Uri's sinking stomach fell to greater depths. He had to get his family out. Adrenaline washed over him as he sprinted toward the stairs. He ran up them, the flames biting at his feet and ankles. But the burns were no match for his desperation. Smoke already filled the air upstairs as the flames followed behind him. The first door at the top of the stairs led to his daughter's room. He burst through it, the door slamming against the wall, jolting his daughter awake. She screeched at the sound, eyes wide. "Daddy? What?" "Fire, Zolta. We have to go," he said, cutting her off. Zolta coughed as the smoke now filled her room. Her eyes stung as fear rushed through her. Tears fell down her face. Uri scooped her up in his arms. He turned toward the doorway, only to see that the flames had already reached them. He grabbed the comforter from the bed and wrapped it around them, shielding them from the fire. He ran toward the second bedroom. The open door had already let in a dark cloud of smoke. Uri coughed, struggling to breathe as the taste of wood and ash filled his mouth. He shuffled toward the bed, barely able to see through his teary, stinging eyes. He finally reached the bed. His wife lay still under the covers. He tore them off her and shook her with his free hand. "Hannah, wake up, honey." His voice dripped with panic and desperation. "Wake up!" But Hannah made no sound, no movement. Uri's distress coursed through him. "Wake up, sweetie, wake up!" "Daddy," Zolta said through tears. "It's so hot." She coughed. Again. "I can't breathe." Uri snapped his head toward the doorway. The flames licked around the doorframe, just touching the inside wall of the room. He looked behind him at the tiny window, then at his wife, then at Zolta. His daughter would be the only one who could fit. He knew what to do. But first, he opened the nightstand drawer beside the bed. He quickly pulled out a silver necklace, and his palm tightly grasped the horse head pendant. He rushed to the window carrying both Zolta and the necklace. He placed her on the ground next to the window, the comforter falling to the floor. He slipped the necklace over her head, the chain landing near her shoulders. Uri threw open the window. A group of onlookers shouted from below, pointing and crying out to him. He froze, face flushing with rage and fear, as, at the corner of the store, the man in the coat looked up at him. He gave a dark, devilish grin as he smashed a hammer against the storefront window. The new air fed the gluttonous fire. As the flame rushed into the doorway, Uri nearly collapsed from the spiking heat. He kissed Zolta on the forehead and hugged her. "Be brave for me, okay? I love you." Before she could protest, Uri picked her up and dangled her out the window. A man rushed to the space below, arms outstretched, ready to catch her. He placed her on the awning under the second-story window and let go. She slid down it and dropped into the man's arms. Uri turned his attention to his wife, who was still unmoving in bed. He tried to shake her again, calling out her name, but the roar of the flames yelled over him. He tried pulling her limp body out of bed, but the heat and smoke-filled lungs diminished all his strength. He gasped, trying to breathe. His calls to his wife no longer able to leave his throat. The flames filled in around them, the window now blocked by a wall of fire. Soaked in sweat, Uri panted as the heat siphoned the last bit of his strength. He crawled into bed next to Hannah and wrapped his arms around her. Tears fell down his face. The fire came closer to them. There was nothing more he could do but hold her and tell her he loved her. She couldn't say it back, and soon neither would he. Oliver stared at his brand new F-350 with a sparkle in his eye. It was a gift from his father with all the bells and whistles. It sat shining and polished. The only thing a passerby would criticize was all the mud kicked up on the sides, and if they got close enough, the smell. Teenage body odor and cheap body spray clung to the interior, almost as though he spent his entire free time in it, which he did. Oliver, with his redneck friend Ted, decided to drive through the locally named Shit Creek, named so because of the sewer runoff from the uphill treatment plant. However, the local teenagers cared little about the smell as long as it kept the adults away and left them with a little unsupervised fun. When he and his friends showed up at the party spot by the creek, they were greeted by many friendly faces and a roaring fire. It was a small town in AZ called Globe. They parked next to the beer keg, resting in a sheared half-barrel. Oliver was pleased to see someone actually buried it in ice this time. At the last keg party, Ted, his friend and passenger, had been in charge of bringing the ice. That didn't turn out well. Ted was an intelligent guy, book-wise, but often volunteered for things just to be a people-pleaser. Oliver teased Ted frequently about how Ted swore to bring 40 pounds of ice, yet he had no money and, worse, no vehicle to deliver said ice. Typically, Oliver would have driven and paid for it, but that weekend, his parents had grounded him for failing English. Oliver was short and a bit tubby, but had Daddy's money. His truck was the envy of the small school. He compensated for his physical shortcomings with an arrogance bred from Napoleon and Donald Trump. It made him notorious for his sarcastic remarks and criticism, but it did allow for a touch of charisma, the same charisma he had every intention of using on Brandy. She wasn't the hottest girl in their small high school, but she was the sluttiest by far. Oliver spotted Brandy sipping from a red Solo cup and play fighting with a boy Oliver knew and liked well. Jealousy overcame him. Oliver walked into the firelight shouting, "Who wants shots?" and produced an almost full bottle of whiskey. The crowd roared with approval, none more than Brandy. Their reception made him brush off any concerns about his dad's fury over the theft of his liquor. After several shots, the group harassed Ted into holding a beer can above his head as Oliver aimed a gun at it. "Hold her steady, Ted," Oliver yelled. Typically, Ted marveled over Oliver's marksmanship. He once saw him put a slug from his favorite shotgun into a beer can 50 yards away. The only issue here was that Oliver was drunker than usual. Oliver was hammered and pulled this stunt to impress his crush, and he knew it. Ted looked over to Brandy, hoping for some sanity. She paid no attention to them and lined up to do a keg stand. However, Oliver believed in his drunk mind that he could nail Brandy if he nailed the shot. He took careful aim and yelled, "You ready?" Ted, being nearly as drunk as Oliver, had the presence of mind too. Asked quickly, "What load are you shooting?" Oliver paused for a second before firing a shot at his best friend's head. He thought for a moment and realized he had loaded his shotgun not with slugs but with birdshot. Even if his aim had been perfect, the scatter effect would have destroyed Ted's face. Oliver, realizing this fact, didn't own up to it. Instead, he lowered the shotgun and said, "This is dumb. Let's go get a beer." Ted breathed out a sigh of relief. He assumed Oliver had just come to his senses. He didn't know he'd been moments away from death just because his friend wanted to impress a girl. A girl who not only wasn't paying attention, now vomited on Oliver's expensive truck. Oliver and Ted made their way over to the bonfire. On the way, they decided to keep their William Tell failure to themselves. The others gathered around the fire as well, drinking cheap beer as their laughs echoed through the woods. After a while, they sat down on logs by the fire. Out of the corner of his eye, Oliver saw that Brandy had sat next to another boy. Ted had tried to sit with him, but Oliver shooed him away. That left Oliver alone on a long log while everyone else crowded together. Insecure and jealous, Oliver stood up and on a whim offered the crowd a challenge. "I got a dare for everyone, and whoever does it gets the rest of, and in this bottle and gets to pick who gets to drink the rest." Some of the kids in the crowd agreed, yelling and cheering. The loudest cheer came from Brandy. She noticed most of the crowd's lack of interest and upped the ante. She stood with hands on her low-cut Daisy Duke-covered hips and proclaimed, Whichever y'all do at Oliver's challenges wins me. The single boys noticed, and some of the boys with girls hanging off their arms did too. Brandy was a long sought-after target for most of the boys in their school. To have it so willingly offered was a chance few wouldn't take. Oliver was thrilled by this turn of events. Brandy was always his target, and for her to make it easier was genuinely fortunate. He planned to get Ted to be the only volunteer and have him back out, making Oliver the winner. Instead, he got half a dozen boys up and willing. Oliver realized he needed to make the challenge more difficult. He started by thanking Brandy for offering herself as the prize. Now he had everyone's attention. Even the game of horseshoes had stopped. Once Oliver had their focus, he told the crowd about the legend of the Goatman. He went into immense detail about the recent murder of Dino's household. "Who here hasn't heard of Dino's family's murder?" he asked, knowing damn well everyone at that kegger knew about it. It was the Goatman that did the murdering. He expected, and got, scoffs and ridicule. He watched as Brandy gave a dismissive wave and walked toward the keg for another beer. Oliver stood proud and continued, "My father is friends with the police chief and was told privately that there was no way a human could do that kind of damage. The entire doorframe was destroyed, meaning either a big truck smashed it or something else did. There were no tire tracks leading up to that house. But what was leading up were hoof prints, deep hoof prints, made by something hefty. Not only that, but these prints were massive, at least 4 times the size of a horse's." Brandy poured herself another beer, but to her surprise, she was alone. She glanced back at the fire and saw everyone focused on Oliver. Her interest rose. Oliver, having everyone's attention, was in his prime. He usually embellished his tales to make himself feel more important, but the reality of this story needed no embellishment. His father had told him everything his friends on the force shared in detail. The kids were bored, so they tried something new. I don't know exactly how they learned about the Goatman, probably from Dino. Now, the Goatman kills for pleasure, but rumors say he ain't some mindless beast. On occasion, he kidnaps one victim to return with him to whatever hellhole he comes from. Oliver had everyone's attention. He was in his element and relished it. The whole town had heard of the family's demise. It was a small town, and most of their families had grown up there for generations. Someone in the crowd said, "Well, sign me up for being kidnapped," he joked. "Better than being smooshed." A couple of nods followed. Oliver didn't like that someone stole a bit of his steam. "Is there absolute proof that the Goatman was the murderer?" another kid asked. "No, there ain't any surviving witnesses, and they didn't have surveillance cameras, which, according to my dad, just proves how cheap old Dino was. My dad says Dino had a fortune's worth of jewelry and raw jewels stored away. Ready inventory for his store downtown." Everyone, wrapped up in Oliver's soliloquy, forgot about the challenge and the tempting reward. Brandy hadn't forgotten. Brandy was drunk, bored, and pissed. She walked over to Oliver in her skin-tight tank top, Daisy Duke shorts, and an old boyfriend's ball cap that she had threaded her ponytail into. She stood in front of Oliver with her hand held out. He looked blankly at her and handed over the whiskey bottle he held. She took it, popped the lid, and said calmly, "What is the challenge for these morons so I can get on with my night?" She stomped the ground with her cowgirl boots and popped the cork lid on the whiskey. Oliver told her quietly to have them go to the creek, turn their back, and chant Goatman 3 times. Last one that comes back to the fire wins. He said it in a soft voice, commanded by his white trash queen. She looked at him, smiled, and punched him hard in the shoulder. Then she turned to the bonfire crowd. "Get all your asses down to the creek," she yelled. "Turn your back and say Goatman 3 times. Last one back wins me." The men hoping to win the prize ran full speed toward the creek. Oliver and Brandy were now mostly alone, aside from a few girls and even fewer boys still lingering around the fire. They passed the bottle back and forth while chatting. "So do you really believe in the Goatman?" Brandy asked. "Nah," said Oliver dismissively. in an overly boisterous voice. "I mean, everything I told the others was what my pops told me. But I mean, really?" Even in Oliver's mind, the argument sounded weak. Brandy said with a slight frown, "Well, if it's like how your dad says, then it could have been the goat." Oliver said, "Oh, is lil' girl Brandy scared of the mean old Goatman?" He raised his arms dramatically and mimicked a goat loudly while chasing her. "Get away from me, you smelly, stupid goat," she said with a giggle. She happened to run toward his massive truck, and that's where he caught her. He laughed as he pinned her against the hood. She grabbed him by the face and kissed him, wet and sloppy. But Oliver didn't care, not with all the booze coursing through his veins. Oliver clicked the doors of his truck. With limbs entangled, they made their way inside. Ted and the boys followed Oliver's instructions with zero coordination. Each boy ran full speed to the creek and spun around quickly to say the chant. After each had made the summons, they all felt silly. After awkward minutes of intense silence, they looked at one another and laughed. One boy piped up, "What if we all walk back together and all come?" In last, more laughter filled the creek bed. Another boy cracked, "Brandy will have her pick." A voice down the line said, "A pick? She'll have to pay her debt." To the lot of us. Their words sparked a roar of laughter from the motley crew. They shouted his name over and over like it was the funniest game their drunken minds had ever played. Then something flicked in the air that quieted them. It felt like a wave of energy pressing against their chests and pushing straight through them. The birds in the trees suddenly squawked and flew off en masse. A patch of ground just past the creek shifted. They watched as the dirt parted on its own and went in a counterclockwise circle, as though an invisible man were drawing in the sand with a stick. They froze, their collective terror flushing through each of them. Once complete, the ground in the circle darkened and began to wave and shine as though it had turned to oil. Then a figure slowly rose from the center of the circle. The black substance clung to him in patches, then fell away clean. Their hearts pounded and blood ran cold as the Goatman rose from the circle. It looked at them for a moment and snarled. Saliva burst from its drooling jowls as it let out a chest-rumbling roar. The boys screamed. They scrambled over one another, tripping and stampeding as they tried to run. The Goatman brought his head down and charged. Sickening screams and squelches erupted in the air as his massive, horned head crashed into the crowd. He swung his head as he hit them, sending them flying into the air and crashing down hard. Their bodies stayed silent. Ted managed to miss the charge and went sprinting toward the campfire. He knew the only reason the monster didn't chase him immediately was because it had easier prey. He caught a glimpse of the fire and felt like salvation was near. Ted tucked his head and doubled his efforts, believing the fire would be his safe place. He looked behind him as much as he looked ahead, and though he tripped a few times, it didn't slow him down much. With his last glance back, he barely made out the outline of the massive, murderous monster. "Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!" was all Ted could mutter. Up by the fire, Oliver and Brandy were fooling around in his truck, oblivious to their friends' fates. Though the few left at the campfire sensed something was wrong. At first, they heard screams from the not-so-far-away creek. They laughed it off, thinking the boys were just horsing around. But as the screams continued, worry set in. When they heard the Goatman's roar, fear took hold. Oliver and Brandy jumped as terrified classmates pounded on the windows, interrupting Oliver's effort to get to second base. He waved them off, thinking it was some kind of prank. He would have ignored them completely, but Brandy rolled down the window to see what the problem was. "Let us in!" one of the kids screamed. She answered nonchalantly, "Sup?" But a cold feeling washed over her as she saw the panic in his eyes and on the faces of the others running up from the creek. "Open the doors, Oliver." Oliver froze for a second, the reality of what might be happening finally sinking in. He began to shake. He fumbled for his keys. "We gotta bail," he said, eyes flashing to his terrified classmates. "The Goatman'll be busy with them. We got time." Brandy slapped him across the face. "What the fuck?" he yelled. "Open the doors, you dick!" Brandy screamed. Oliver begrudgingly popped all the locks. The teens clawed at one, another as they frantically tried to climb inside. "Everyone shut up!" Oliver shouted over the panicked crowd in the truck. "This truck weighs over 6,000 pounds. He ain't getting through this beast. I'm getting us the hell out of here." He finally got the key into the ignition, but before he could crank it, something caught his eye in the distance. Ted, sprinting toward them in terror. The Goatman, monstrous and massive, ran behind him. It snatched Ted up mid-stride, wrapped a huge hand around him, and hurled him toward the truck. "What in the hell?" was all Oliver got out before Ted's body smashed through the windshield. It slammed into Brandy, killing her on impact. Their bodies collided with a sickening squelch as blood sprayed through the cab. The teens that had stormed the truck went into full panic, screaming for Oliver to take off. He dropped the keys in the chaos and now dug through the blood, pooling on the passenger floorboard, trying to find them. Ted's body lay next to him, contorted at grotesque angles. Just a torso now, no limbs. The only sign of Brandy's crushed body was her old boyfriend's ball cap, somehow now perched on Ted's head. Oliver found the keys in the puddle and jammed them into the ignition. The Goatman paused, looking around like he was soaking in the sick glory of his massacre. Then he locked eyes on the truck. He lowered his horns and prepared to charge. Oliver cranked the engine. The automatic headlights came on. All he saw at first was the flat they'd partied in and the fire. Beyond that, the trees swallowed the light. He flicked on the brights. "What in the hell is that?" he yelled to the bloody screaming crowd in his truck. No one answered. Oliver squinted into the forest. Now that his lights pierced the trees, he saw the outline of a massive beast standing just beyond the tree line. It stepped into the clearing, huge and way more terrifying than even his dad had described. Oliver took stock. Most of his friends were dead. His long time. Crush was leaking into his shoe. Rage filled him. He threw the truck into gear and smashed the gas pedal. The engine roared. The tires skidded, caught, and launched them forward. The Goatman, enraged by the sound, charged back. This was Oliver's shot at revenge. Blood pooled around him, his best friends, his crushes, and he was behind the wheel of his most prized possession. He floored it, determined to run the bastard down. Oliver let out a scream, a twisted, vengeful laugh as his truck thundered toward the Goatman. The two titans charged head-on. It was the ultimate game of chicken. One was a 7-ton apex predator, the other a truck. They met just past the fire. The crash sent Ted's body flying, again, through the same hole he'd entered. The impact unleashed a wave of energy, knocking down nearby trees. The truck derailed like a train smashing into a mountain. Oliver's vision went black. Silence followed. Oliver groaned as he came to. The rest of the passengers were dead on impact, but his seatbelt had kept him pinned and somehow untouched. The Goatman grunted and growled as he stood. He'd won, but he was hurt. His massive horns were cracked, and he wheezed with every breath. Oliver looked into his narrowed eyes and saw pain. Then their eyes locked. Oliver tried to scream, but no sound came. He had no energy left. The Goatman stepped forward, reached through the shattered windshield, glass falling like rain, and wrapped a hand around Oliver. The seatbelt snapped. Oliver cried out at the pressure. He braced for death, but it didn't come. Instead, the Goatman turned and walked toward the creek, dragging Oliver's limp body behind him. Oliver stared up into the night sky, his vision fading, wondering what kind of hell was waiting next. He slipped into darkness as the Goatman pulled them back through the portal. Oliver groaned as his consciousness came back to him. His body ached and stung like he'd been sent through a meat grinder. Cold air clung to his skin. He fluttered open his eyes to see an empty, dull gray sky. What happened?" he muttered to himself, his throat dry, stomach twinging with hunger. "Welcome to paradise," a voice next to him said. Oliver jolted up to see a man standing over him. He looked young, maybe just in his 20s, thin, with striking green eyes and jagged black hair falling to his shoulders. He wore a pair of tattered shorts that looked like they could fall apart at any second. "You all right?" the man asked, reaching out a hand to help him up. Oliver growled, already pissed off and untrusting. He swatted the hand away. "I'm fine," he said, then with wobbly legs forced himself to stand. "Where the fuck am I?" he snapped, grabbing onto a nearby tree for balance. "Hell," the man said flatly. "Seriously?" Oliver squealed. "I don't know for sure," the man shrugged, "but it's the only thing I can think of." Only then did Oliver finally look around. The sky was empty and gray. Around them stood a forest of petrified trees, their dead, jagged branches reaching for a sun that clearly hadn't shown itself in a long time, if ever. A few meters away, a narrow creek flowed. "Oh, Jesus, some water!" he shouted. He bolted across the gray, dusty ground, dropped to his knees at the creek, and scooped up water, greedily gulping it down. He paused. Something was off. The water didn't feel right. It was the same temperature as the air, maybe even warmer. It curbed his thirst but didn't quench it. "You'll never stop feeling a little bit thirsty," the man said, walking up behind him, as if reading Oliver's thoughts. "Same with hunger. It doesn't ever fully go away, no matter how much you eat." Oliver looked down at his chest. A thick, red, iridescent chain hung from his neck. Its glow pulsed, sometimes bright, sometimes faint, like a phantom outline. He leaned forward to catch a reflection in the water. The chain was connected to a thick collar, the same strange material wrapping around his neck. "What?" Oliver started, but the words died in his throat. "Yeah, you'll forget it's there sometimes, until he wants you," the man said, eyes locked ahead. "You're tied to him now." Oliver turned to follow his gaze and his stomach dropped. Blood ran cold. About 50 feet away stood the Goatman. It moved slowly, heavily, eyes glazed like it was sleepwalking. Now up close, Oliver could finally take in the full horror. It was massive, grotesque. Gray skin, dark gray fur lined its thighs, torso, and biceps. A long, snake-like tail dragged behind it, flicking. Drool dripped from its goat-bearded jaw, and ribbed obsidian-colored ram horns curled wickedly over its head. "You're his prisoner now," the man said, voice robotic, like he'd said it 1,000 times. "We all are. You're tied to him now." "I don't understand," Oliver said. "You will." A pause. "Well, kinda. Nobody really fully understands it." Oliver fell silent, lost in thought. He eyed the man suspiciously. "You got a name?" The man paused like he had to dig through dust to find it. "Brent," he finally said. "Brent, great. I'm Oliver," he replied, eager to get formalities over with so he could focus on escape. "So you mean to tell me there are other people here?" Brent nodded. 21 of us now." He looked off into the trees. "There's some over there." Oliver followed his point. 3 people, one naked, 2 in tattered rags, wandered aimlessly between the trees. Their eyes were blank, like their minds had melted out of their skulls. "What's wrong with them?" Oliver asked. "You try living here for decades and see what it does to your psyche," Brent muttered. "Well, I guess you'll find out." "Wait, what do you mean?" Oliver snapped, standing up. "You've got to help me escape." "I've been here 8 years," Brent said. "I tried. The chain won't let us pass the tree line, and there's no breaking it. Past the forest, all I've seen is gray desert for miles. This place, this hell, goes on forever. Might as well be another planet for all I know. At this point, I'm just trying not to piss him off." "What happens if you do that?" Oliver asked. Brent's eyes narrowed. He nodded to his right. "Walk with me." Oliver groaned but followed. "Walking's pretty much all there is to do here," Brent said. "And talking. But most of these people are too far gone for that. Most of the time, anyway." He looked over at Oliver, hesitant. "So, how'd you get here?" Oliver recounted his story. Brent, while listening, found himself almost grateful for the usual silence of his fellow prisoners. "So you see, that's why I have to get back. This is all a mistake. I didn't summon him. I didn't bother him. He has to be reasoned with," Oliver said, exasperated. Brent winced. "He's not the type you can reason with. He doesn't talk. He just kills." Oliver's eyes lit up. "Wait, so if there's no escape, I can just have Him kill me and this'll all be over? Brent shook his head. Nah, no matter how many times he kills you, you come back. Doesn't matter how you die. Your body regenerates and you end up right back here. And if you try to kill yourself or someone else, just pisses him off more. Oliver frowned, deep in thought. I want to talk to him. Brent's eyes went wide. Did you not hear me? He can't be reasoned with. He's a fucking monster. Oliver grabbed the chain around his neck and yanked it. Hey! Fucker, get over here! Stop! Brent yelled, lunging to pry his hands away. But Oliver shoved him off and yanked until the chain went taut. You listening to me? He shouted. The goatman turned his head slowly at first. Then, with a rumbling roar and thunderous stomps, he charged. Oliver and Brent barely had time to scream before the goatman grabbed both their heads and crushed their skulls in his fists. Oliver groaned again, that same aching flood returning through his body. He gasped and jolted upright. He felt his chest, chain still there. He touched his head, no damage. Holy shit, he breathed. He turned to his right. Brent stood over him, fury twisting his face. Brent shoved him hard. You fucking idiot, he snapped. Do you not listen to anyone, you fucking prick? Oliver looked past him. The goatman was stomping about, huffing like a bull in heat. You just pissed him off more, thanks, Brent added with a sarcastic snarl. But Oliver, mind always scheming, was already thinking again. You think we could set a trap the next time he leaves? Make some. Weapons? Brent groaned, fists clenched in frustration. What could you, someone who's been here a day, possibly know that we don't? Oliver stood thinking. He kicked a stone in frustration. It clattered, loud. The goatman paused mid-step. Brent cursed under his breath. But the beast went back to pacing. Oliver pressed on. What if you distract the beast the next time the portal opens? I'll run through, I'll get help. I'll come back and save you when I'm out. Just shut up, will you? Brent snapped. Distract the monster from the open portal? The one fucking thing he cares about? What am I gonna do? Pull my pants down and moon it? A roar pierced the air. They snapped their heads to see the goatman. Seething with newfound fury, it snatched up one of the other wandering prisoners. She screamed. The goatman grabbed the upper part of her torso with his other hand and tore her in half. Her insides fell to the ground with a sickening, wet noise. Soon her body thudded to the dirt, and he dropped the rest of her. Brent turned toward Oliver. He looked at him with wide eyes and he said, Look away! What? Oliver replied, the shock of the woman's death slowing his thoughts. Don't watch, Brent said, desperate. Excited cries and yelps emerged from the woods. 7 naked men and women, prisoners, all ran toward the body. They jumped on it like a pack of snarling hyenas. They clawed at the wet, oozing insides and shoved the organs into their mouths, eating with feral, gluttonous glee. Oliver shook with terror, eyes locked on the sight. Brent closed his eyes, trembling. It's the only thing that actually satiates them, he said, opening his eyes again. But you start to lose what made you human. He turned toward Oliver. The body grows back still, and you start over again. Oliver struggled to push the words from his throat. He turned to Brent and said, Have you done it? Tears welled in Brent's eyes as he snapped his head away. Once, he said quietly. Oliver jumped back. Cannibals? He screeched, his mind flooding with images of his corpse being eaten. Oh, fuck. Fuck no. I am getting the fuck out of here. He jolted away from Brent, running toward the goatman. This beast snarled and snapped its head in his direction. Oliver approached and said in a loud but non-threatening voice, Waiting for the next portal, aren't you? The beast flared its nostrils and huffed at him, stomping a massive hoof in frustration. What if I can help you? Oliver said. The stomping stopped. The goatman tilted his head, eyeing him. Brent froze, watching Oliver do what no one else ever had. Calm the beast. But what was the price he was about to offer? Oliver continued. Next time the portal opens, let me come with you. I'll make your name more well-known. I'll summon you all the time." Brent gasped as Oliver continued his devilish plea. "Please," Oliver said. "I can help you." He dropped to his hands and knees, looking up like a beaten dog. "Let me go back, and I'll bring you dozens, no, hundreds, more people to take my place." The beast went still. The only sounds around them were the wet, cannibal feast and the goatman's labored bestial breath. He reached out toward Oliver. Oliver flinched, putting his hands up to shield his face. He felt the goatman grip one of his arms, then stillness. Oliver looked up. The goatman stared down at him. He pulled Oliver's arm down, then slid a clawed thumb across his palm and sliced it open. Oliver hissed in pain, pulling his hand to his chest. He looked up again. The goatman opened his right hand, then sliced his own palm with his left thumb claw. Blood trickled down its hand. He stared at Oliver with cold red eyes as he brought the bloodied hand forward and held it out. Oliver stared, heart pounding. The goatman was offering him a handshake. A sick feeling pooled in Oliver's stomach. He looked at his palm, then the goatman's. A wicked smile pulled across Oliver's lips. His freedom was only moments away. All he had to do was make a deal with the devil. Oliver slapped his hand into the goatman's. A shock surged through him, leaving a tingling sensation of sweet, luscious power. "No," Brent whispered, eyes wide. "Oliver, what have you done?" As if on cue, a portal opened above the goatman. The same black ooze waved in the circle above. The beast let out an approving noise, then gripped Oliver's arm tighter. They locked eyes, and in that moment, Oliver understood. If he failed to deliver or dared betray the goatman, he would suffer torment unlike anything the beast had ever dealt. Oliver nodded. With a swift motion, the goatman flung Oliver into the portal. Oliver landed face first in cold mud. It was the middle of the night. Cold, dark, earth. He spat out mud, but he was thrilled. He stood up, then felt a hard tug at his neck. Looking down, he saw the chain glow, then vanish. The collar was still there, even if invisible now. He looked behind him and saw the portal closing. That tug had been a final reminder from the goatman. He looked at his palm, the one used to seal the deal. Scar tissue formed a strange symbol on the skin. He turned and saw lights up the creek bed. Boisterous laughter echoed. Oliver crept closer. He spotted 4 pickup trucks facing upstream, and 6 men holding shotguns in one hand and beers in the other. If he hadn't, Oliver's a boy. These guys would be dead by now. A 12 gauge wouldn't be enough to take down the goatman. Oliver walked up the creek toward them and called out, "Hey guys, a little help?" He figured it was smarter to announce himself than startle a bunch of drunk, armed rednecks who just tried to summon death itself. "Where the hell did you come from?" one of them asked. Oliver didn't want to explain. He had every intention of keeping his word to the goatman, but to do that, he needed real help. Telling the truth would just make him sound insane. "Got separated from my friends. Got lost in the woods," he lied. The same man scoffed. "That was damn foolish of you, youngster. There's dangerous shit in these parts." "If only you knew," Oliver muttered. He pictured the carnage that would have gone down if the goatman had come through that portal instead of him. "Chance I can hitch a ride back to town?" Oliver asked. They just looked at him for a beat. He looked and smelled awful. Honestly, the fresh mud probably helped. Another man shrugged. "Well, might as well. We're plumb out of beer." The first guy chuckled. "Sounds like we're heading out anyway. Tell you what, I'll give you a ride, but you gotta ride in the back of the truck. You stink to high heaven." Oliver didn't argue. They headed back to town with Oliver shivering in the truck bed. He didn't know where he was. Lucky, though, that they summoned him to America. No way this redneck, English-speaking bunch lived anywhere else. Oliver went inside to clean up the best he could. After trying to make himself presentable, he found a booth, wanted to order damn near the entire menu, and asked to borrow a phone. Turned out he ended up in New Mexico, just one day after the bonfire. That was a blessing, all things considered. He could have been summoned anywhere in the world, anytime. Imagine if the summons went global, he thought. Oliver was a schemer, always had been. He liked attention. He had every intention of using the Goatman to his advantage. He looked like hell walking into that Waffle House, but nobody batted an eye. Hell, some of the other patrons looked worse than he did. A lovely older woman with a name tag that said Sunshine greeted him. "What can I get you, baby?" she asked. She took in his rough state and with kind eyes added, "You okay, baby? You need to use the phone?" It was like she read his mind. Oliver nearly broke down at her kindness. He'd just lived through unspeakable horror in the Goatman's realm, and Sunshine treated him like he'd just come off a long shift at a law firm, suit and tie included. He lost himself so much in his escape that he didn't fully grasp how fortunate he was. He looked at Sunshine, close to the brink of tears, and said, "Yes, please, thank you." His words were a mixture of gratitude and grief. She nodded and rubbed his back as she said, "Of course, let's get you something to eat too." On the house, Oliver's tears finally overflowed. She hugged him and gave him her cell phone to use. Oliver punched in his father's phone number. "Hello?" His father's voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying for hours. "Hey, Dad," Oliver said, tears flowing freely. "It's me." Oliver's father was inconsolable to hear from his son. Luckily, Oliver was only a few hours away. He jumped into his car immediately and retrieved his pride and joy. After Oliver had eaten his fill, he passed out in a booth. This must have been a common customer habit because not only did they not wake him, but Sunshine lent him her jacket as a pillow. He woke to his father's voice screaming, "Where is my boy?" Oliver bolted upright, groggy and woozy. Once in his father's line of sight, he wrapped him up in a tight embrace. During the long ride home, Oliver played dumb to his father's questioning. His father didn't pry. Always the sensitive guy, he figured the boy would talk when he was ready. When the two finally returned home, Oliver went to his room. Unable to sleep, he pulled out his tablet, since he assumed his phone had long been destroyed, and pulled up his social media. His bloody handshake with the Goatman still lingered in his mind. He had to bring him more kills. But how would he start? He clicked on the search bar of his YouTube app and typed in supernatural killings. A clip of Jacoba popped up first on the screen. He tapped on it, but his tired mind wouldn't rest, so he struggled to focus. "A supernatural being did this," Jacoba said at one point at a podium. "To those that doubt me, I only ask you follow up on this and take note of what the medical examiners say." A clip of an interviewer flashed next. He said, "What were your findings of the body, sir?" The following clip played that of the doctor. He cleared his throat. Before speaking, he responded, "It seems to be a man who died of acute, super rapid Ebola. I've just never seen it like this before. Ebola takes over a week to wreck its victims. This man had, it only took moments." Oliver clicked on the embedded link, which brought him to the homepage of the Bridge to Deliverance Church. There, he skimmed through all the videos of their Reverend David Jacoba. Oliver had never heard of them before, but the man's presence on screen captivated him. Oliver put the screen to sleep and then snuggled himself into bed. He decided that this was the man he needed to partner with. This man would believe him. This man could be his savior from the Goatman's wrath. His pushover father would be the easy first step. Oliver would just say he wanted religious counseling to help him process the experience. He knew that tomorrow he would borrow his father's truck and make the journey to Phoenix to help hold up his end of the deal. The next day, Oliver's plan went smoothly. He got up early and made the 5-hour journey to the church. He didn't bother calling or making an appointment. Rather, just like many other times in his life, he expected everyone to cater to him. He burst through the church doors and ran up to the receptionist. "I need to see Reverend Jacoba right away," he boomed at her. The woman put down the raw ramen and looked annoyed. You have an appointment?" "Listen, you ramen munchin' bitch, I need to see him now." The fact that she wasn't upset over his words led Oliver to believe She wasn't easily insulted. He tried a different tactic. He looked around and barged through the biggest door he could. See. Before he knew it, he stood before the man himself. Jacoba, who was studying an old map and cross-referencing it with satellite photos, didn't care for the intrusion. Oliver went to apologize, but the receptionist tackled him before he could get a word out. Jacoba, unbothered, studied the young man as he watched his receptionist sit on him and start to choke him with both hands. "Let him up," he said firmly to her. To Oliver's relief, he felt the cold, thick fingers unclench. "Mr. Rev, sir," said the secretary. "This brat insulted me and barged into your office unannounced." Jacoba looked at her and said, "He must have had a reason. Please, leave us." With a grunt, she got off him and shuffled off, shutting the door behind her. "Mr. Reverend," started Oliver, gaining his feet. Jacoba looked at him as he placed his elbows on his desk, interlacing his fingers. He asked, "Why are you here? I assume it's about the supernatural attack the other day?" "Yes, no, kinda," Oliver said, stumbling over his words. "I'm here because you might be the only man who'll believe me. I was taken by the Goatman a couple days ago," he said. "He took me to his hell, whatever, and I managed to escape." Oliver held his hands out as he spoke. Jacoba's jaw fell open. Of course he caught wind of the Shit Creek massacre the day it happened. Oliver's face was plastered all over the news, seeing as it was the only body that wasn't identified. Then his eyes fell on Oliver's palm, spotting the same symbol he'd seen only a few times before. "Do you believe me?" Oliver asked, shaking, nearly on the verge of tears again. Jacoba stood, seeing Oliver on the edge of breaking. He walked over and wrapped his arms around him in a tight embrace. Oliver melted under his comforting touch. "The fact that you're here after being dragged off by the Goatman leads me to believe almost anything you've got to say," Jacoba said. Oliver looked up at him with glossy eyes. Jacoba released him and motioned toward the chair in front of his desk. "Please sit. We have much to discuss," he said. Jacoba listened intently while Oliver told his tale. He started from the beginning, describing the banger of a keg party at Shit Creek. He spoke at length about his brand new F-350 and its many features. Jacoba didn't care about those details, but he knew the exciting part was coming. When Oliver finally got to the part about the challenge to the partygoers, Jacoba interrupted with a single question. "I just did what the stupid campfire story said," Oliver answered. "Go to a creek and say its name 3 times. I doubt you even need a creek anymore." "I see," said Jacoba. "Please continue." Oliver and Jacoba sat in his office for hours talking about the lore of the Fade. Once Oliver was confident that he had come to the right man, he said, "I haven't told you how I managed to come back." Jacoba closed the old book he had been referencing and said, "Finally," with a reassuring wave of his hand. "But before you begin, I would ask you to give me every confidence you can muster. I am a man of the cloth, and with your consent, I would like to treat this as a confession. You can tell me anything, and not only am I bound by my word to keep your story secret, but also I am bound by God to honor your confidence in me." Jacoba sat at his desk and folded his hands in front of him, waiting patiently for Oliver to continue. Oliver was impressed by this proclamation, and he felt inclined to tell Jacoba everything. He nodded in acceptance. Oliver, feeling moved by Jacoba's speech, wanted to be as elegant with his words as possible, but he couldn't muster the vocabulary and simply blurted, "I made a deal with the Goatman." Jacoba sat impassively, waiting for more details. Oliver, who was in full swing telling his story with a flourish, seemed to choke on his words. "I tried to save as many as I could," he managed to say through a tightened throat and watery eyes. "I piled as many as I could in my truck to get away. That was my plan anyways, but when I saw what that beast did to Brandy, I lost it." "Brandy?" asked Jacoba. Oliver nodded and said, "Girlfriend." "What happened to your poor Brandy?" asked Jacoba in her feigned interest. Oliver grew angry. He raised his voice for the first time and said, That monster booted my best friend so hard that when his body hit Brandy, he ended up wearing her as a suit, okay? Jacoba grimaced at the image but stayed quiet, letting Oliver regain momentum. When that happened, I lost it. Instead of bolting out of there, I challenged the beast, Oliver said. Jacoba raised his eyebrows at that declaration, doubtful. Oliver continued, I gunned the engine and went to run the monster down. It lowered its head and charged back. When it was over, everyone but me was dead. The Goatman went toe-to-toe with a F-350 and won. I remembered something dragging me from the smashed truck, and when I woke up, I was in the hellhole. Oliver went on to describe the hellhole of the endless hard labor and the constant beatings. He described what it felt like to be killed, only to spawn back like a video game character. He explained in great detail that he wasn't alone, and that Brent had been there for 8 years. I told you he kept me and Brent as hard-working labor slaves. But what I didn't tell you is in the fade, as you call it, you can't die. That monster would beat and crush us often, and on occasion would do so too much, and we would die. Although we didn't call it death, we called it taking a nap, because as brutal as he may have broken us, we did not die and pass on. We would always wake up in the bog near his throne in decent health. For us, even the sweet promise of resting in peace was stolen from us. You had to suffer such treatment from the Goatman, Oliver. I can't fathom such an existence. Jacoba again returned to his calm, attentive position with his hands folded together on the desk. Oliver relaxed a bit with the calm acceptance and respect this man had shown him. I made a deal with the Goatman. He sends me back home, and I would help him get summoned more often so he can kill. I see, said Jacoba, his posture and tone unchanging. Oliver, finally admitting his shame, said, You don't understand how awful that place is, and if I betray him, I know he will find me and take me back. Stammering a bit in his defense, he added, And I know for certain that if he drags me back, my last visit there will be a pleasant memory compared to the everlasting torture he will put me through. He finished this statement with a shaking finger pointed at Jacoba. Jacoba said, You are wise and cunning to have accomplished as much as you have, and any man would have taken the same deal you managed to broker with the beast. Before Oliver could think, he said, Brent wouldn't. Yes, said Jacoba. Tell me more of Brent. Did he mention if he had a family? Oliver said, Yeah, we talked a lot about our families. He told the story of his family's murder by the Goatman only once. He said they were all dead, but he did mention his younger brother might have gotten away. His younger brother might have gotten away. How could a little kid escape that monster? Well, from what Brent is older than Warwick was always an odd one. Jacoba stood up and sent his heavy office chair skidding behind him, smashing into a wall. Warwick is Brent's brother, he shouted in shock. Oliver went quiet, eyes falling to Jacoba's desk, knowing of one dark-haired man who would not have made a deal with a devil. When Oliver finished his story, Jacoba asked, Do you know what the hellhole is? Oliver shook his head. Jacoba stood from his desk and waved around the room. Oliver glanced around, seeing towers of books. I have been studying the occult for most of my life, Jacoba said. I have met with accomplished scholars from around the world who were the most brilliant in the field. I not only know where you were held captive, but why that place exists in the first place. To best explain it, I'll start from the beginning. I'm sure you, like most people, have heard of other monsters. Oliver looked at him blankly. Jacoba continued, Bloody Mary? Oliver's face lit up with recognition. The Loch Ness Monster? Bigfoot? He added. Oliver chuckled a bit. Jacoba smiled with him. He continued, These legends are known to us now because they were amongst us in ancient times, but others, like the Goatman, are modern monsters created when horrid deeds mix with magic. Oliver looked at him with a tense, unwavering gaze as he listened. The place you were at is called the Fade, Jacoba said. It is what you might call purgatory. It is where these legends and dark spirits live. Jacoba paused and then said, The Goatman was once human, you know. What? Oliver said with wide eyes. Decades ago, he was a man who fell victim to a serious, vile crime, he said. In these intense moments of darkness, this intense moment of dark emotions and actions can sometimes create little openings from the fade into our world. My theory is that just before the moments of this man's death, one of these creatures sniffed out his pain and snatched his soul, making them its prisoner. If they can find a human soul to tie themselves to, then they'll have access to our world at some time, in some way. These creatures, demons, thrive on death, here and in the fade. He then reached out to Oliver and said, "Your hand, may I see it?" Oliver hesitated for a moment, then reached out and handed it to Jacoba. He inspected it with a smile. "What is it?" Oliver asked. "It's a sigil," Jacoba answered. The same sigil Jacoba saw many times on the aerial photo of Warwick's campsite. He released Oliver and said, "Looks like you're the second person I know to escape the Goatman." Before Oliver could respond, he narrowed his eyes at Oliver, smiling again as he said, "You escaped because you made a deal with the Goatman, didn't you?" Oliver's eyes went wide as he gasped. Jacoba raised his hand and said, "It's all right. You're safe here. Also, I forgot to mention that during my time there, every time he got summoned, he was gone for longer and longer." Jacoba stood upright, releasing Oliver's shoulder. He walked to the window, taking a moment to analyze Oliver's words. After a moment, he finally spoke. "It has been written that these creatures, these demons, can kill on our realm to increase their staying power. If one of them managed to kill enough," Jacoba turned to him with a smile, "they could remain in our realm permanently." Puzzled by his tone and expression, Oliver asked, "So, that's a good thing? You want a demon here?" "Oh, I certainly do," he answered with a chuckle. Astonished, Oliver asked, "What? Why?" Jacoba walked over to him, placed his hands on the arms of Oliver's chair, and leaned in toward him again. Oliver tried to pull away from him, panic setting in like a cornered animal. Jacoba's lips pulled into a vile, devilish grin. "I want it here, because I'm going to figure out how to control it, and you, my little lamb, are going to help me." Then something in the notes on Jacoba's desk caught Oliver's attention. He stared as the word treasure sat bold and circled. Jacoba noticed Oliver's wandering gaze and said with a small smile, "Curious about this?" He motioned toward the scattered papers and maps. "Oh, sorry, Oliver stammered. "No worries, my boy," Jacoba said calmly. "I'm just reading over some notes from an old Dutchman named Hismer." Oliver looked up at him. Jacoba's calm expression shifted into something sharper, a grin that carried an unsettling edge. "You like making deals, don't you, Oliver?" "Well," he said, lowering his voice as if sharing a sacred secret, "you help me with this, and not only will I help you keep your freedom, I'll make you rich beyond your wildest dreams." The rest of the world fell away at his words, and Oliver soon sported the same knowing smile right back at Jacoba. When Warwick finally composed himself, they sped out of town and again stopped at a seedy motel in the middle of nowhere. Warwick needed time to sit and think about what they needed to do next. "So, you want to tell me what's going on?" Meliny said. He looked down on the bed to see Warwick's phone lighting up. The word Damara lit up on the screen for about the 30th time since they left Dino's home. She said, "You going to answer that, or?" "No," Warwick answered curtly. "So who is she?" Meliny asked. "What did she lie about? What happened to you back there?" Warwick let in a big breath and exhaled, trying to calm himself. He spoke his recap quickly, trying to get it over with, as if lingering on the words would make the pain last longer. "I remembered what happened to my family," he began. "The Goatman did this, and it's all my fault because I took off the necklace when I was a kid and summoned him as a joke. They took me to the hospital after. Damara was my nurse. I stayed there for a month because I kept having fainting spells from the shock. Damara treated me with hypnosis. She was really shady about it, though. I thought I had amnesia, but now I know Damara was using it to try to suppress my memory of it. Sounds like maybe she was trying to protect you," Meliny said, with an understanding look. Sounds like she knows something I don't, Warwick said with a snarl. The air in the room sat heavy and cold. Meliny decided to change the subject and picked up her phone. We should see what's happening with Jakoba. We need a new game plan. She looked to see a viral video at the top of her search with the headline, Supernatural Killer at Church. Oh no, Meliny said and turned up the volume. Please respect Stephanie and let her begin the healing process with her fellow church members in peace. Jakoba's well-rehearsed voice captured the attention of all who heard. This horrendous murder in this place of God cannot go unpunished. This was no ordinary murder. I'll not speculate on what was done to our poor Philip, but I will say that it was done by something more than a man. This attack was done by something that had done it before, something that has perfected the art of human suffering. His words raised the eyebrows of the gathering crowd. A reporter dared to ask, "If you had to guess, sir, what could this horrendous thing be if not a man?" Jakoba paused for effect and said, "A supernatural being did this." That silenced everyone, and one reporter openly scoffed. Jakoba said, "To those that doubt me, I only ask you follow up on this and take note of what the medical examiners say, and you will draw the same conclusions that I have. I need to sit and comfort my flock." Their jaws dropped at the interview. "That son of a bitch is going to get hundreds of new followers from this," Warwick said with a snarl. "It's worse than you think, Warwick," Meliny added, eyes intense. "Jakoba is obsessed with magic and the occult. If he found out what you could do, he would lock you in that basement and torture you until you enchanted dozens of items for him. He would tap your magic to its limits. You said your senses diminish every time you use your power, right?" Warwick nodded, knowing where she was going. "What would happen to you if you pushed it over the top, over and over? You would be left a walking corpse with no senses at all." Warwick went white in the face thinking about it. She continued, "That is a fate worse than death." Warwick tried to change the subject. He cleared his throat and said, "You mentioned those goons talking about the Superstition Mountains?" "Yeah, they were talking about their yearly church retreat going to the mountains. They were hopeful that this time they would find it." "What do you think they were talking about?" "No idea," she replied and held up her phone. "But we have a whole library in our pockets, right?" After a quick search inquiry, she said, "Wow, there are a lot of rumors about that place, but the biggest one is the Lost Dutchman Mine." "Oh yeah," said Warwick. "I have heard about it." Warwick sat on the floor in front of Meliny as he petted Zukwick. "I'm reading up on the Lost Dutchman's Mine because most everything else is just stupid myths. I mean, giants and headless soldiers? What a bunch of bull," she said. Warwick cleared his throat, and she glanced at him, petting Zukwick, now in her red panda form. Meliny stared at her for a moment, wondering just how gracefully she should eat her own words. "Anyway," she said after a minute, "the mine was named after a Dutchman who struck it rich in the late 1800s. There's not much on him in the records, but there is a picture of him." Warwick's mind danced with images of him battling giants. "Let me see your necklace," Meliny said as she held out her hand. Warwick tossed her a suspicious look. She groaned and added, "Calm down, I just need to see it for a minute." Warwick begrudgingly handed it over to her. Meliny studied his necklace with a scrutinizing gaze. She then looked back at her phone. "I knew it," she said, then showed her phone to Warwick. "This is a photo of Hismer," she explained, then zoomed in close to the rich man's pocket watch. She asked him, "What do you notice about the watch?" Warwick looked for a minute and said, "It's some rich dead asshole's pocket watch," in a deadpan voice. Meliny scoffed. "Men," she said and shook her head. "Look closely at the emblem near the top of the watch." He focused on it, and it dawned on him. "My necklace has the exact same emblem," he exclaimed. "Exactly," she replied. And that watch looks silver. Warwick's heart pounded in his chest as realization shot through him. It is a Mr. Zilberstein creation, he replied. Sure as hell looks like one, she answered excitedly, his energy rubbing off on her. Okay, so we know that Heismer had at least one of Mr. Zilberstein's creations. Upon discovering the watch in the old photo, Warwick would nod. Sit down. He paced back and forth around the living room. Warwick, said Meliny. He went still momentarily, then shouted, How could I have been so stupid? Meliny, surprised by the outburst, asked him, What do you mean? Do you know what hell my life is? He asked, anger and heartbreak shaking his voice. I have to step on eggshells constantly. I turned my dog into a monster because I was careless. This whole time, there was an item from Mr. Zilberstein that could help me tremendously just down the road. Well, Meliny answered, it's not just down the road exactly. The mine's been sought after by hundreds of people for over a century. No one's ever found it. Warwick waved his hand dismissively at that proclamation. What makes you so confident, then, that this will be easy? He paused for a moment and thought. Well, he continued, I'll just have to tap my powers and find it, won't I? Okay, she answered, deep in thought. But you mentioned before that the more unlikely something would manifest, the more it taxes your senses, correct? Warwick nodded. Meliny speculated the logic of it the best she could. So, say you use your powers, and that lost mine is real. I can see how you could easily navigate yourself there, but let's assume for a minute that it isn't real. So now you're taxing your powers to manifest a legendary gold mine loaded with Mr. Zilberstein's artifacts? How much would that tax you? Warwick was very conservative about using his powers. The ramifications of overusing them terrified him. Sure, he could, at any point, toss salt over his shoulder and pick winning lottery numbers. But the odds of that would hurt him gravely, more than likely, permanently. Yet the thought of going through life without one of his senses terrified him. Sense of smell? Never again be able to appreciate a cheesy gordita crunch? The sense of sight and hearing would also be devastating, of course, but the worst would be the sense of touch. He would never again get comfortable in bed, enjoy the soft fur of Zukwick as he pets her, or enjoy, well, sex. There was an excellent reason Warwick rarely used his powers, and why he referred to them as a curse. All those reasons bounced around in his mind when he thought about what Meliny had said about Jakoba, using him to enchant as many of Mr. Zilberstein's items as possible. It would leave Warwick a walking corpse with nothing but his internal thoughts and remorse. It would indeed be a fate worse than death. They sat together late into the night discussing their plan. Adventure to find the Lost Dutchman's Mine. My managers are going to kick my ass asking for all this time off work, lamented Warwick as he opened his employee phone app to submit his time off request. Meliny scoffed, saying, We're about to become rich beyond our wildest dreams. Neither of us will need to work again. Warwick went quiet for a moment, lip twitching with irritation. The words of her blackmail rang in his ears. Oh, don't be so salty, she said with a snicker. You're gonna get your watch as long as there's something else for me, hopefully jewelry. So let's figure out how to find this dead asshole. Now you said you can use your power to find the mine, right? But we already talked about the downside of doing that. How else do you think we can find it? Warwick thought about it and said, Well, from what you said, Jakoba has a good idea of where it might be. We could tail them? We could, but then what? Jakoba could have dozens of men with him. We won't be able to steal anything from that small army. I'm also worried about you using your powers up there at all, because we need you to be as sharp as possible. You go blind up there could get us caught or killed. Warwick thought for a minute and said, You know that I have a special connection to Mr. Zilberstein's creations, and on the very rare occasion I'm not wearing my necklace, I always know where it is, almost like a pull toward it. Also, when Jakoba came to my work, I knew instantly that his ring was one of the artifacts, and I had that need when I saw it to take it, like an intrusive thought. Okay, let's try something, said Meliny. Hand me your Necklace again? Warwick took it off and handed it to her again. Close your eyes, cover your ears, and face the wall, she said. What? He asked. Just do it, she replied, annoyed. With a huff, Warwick did what he was told. After a minute, he felt Meliny's presence next to him. Okay, she said, loud enough to be heard through his covered ears. See if you can sense where I put the necklace, but keep your eyes closed. Warwick turned around. He took in a deep breath and exhaled. A warmth built in his chest as something pricked against the skin on his sternum. It pulled from a place deep within him, as though a string attached to his very soul tugged for his attention. He held his hands out to guide himself, letting the string lead him along. However, Zukwick, in her Austrian shepherd form, confident he was playing a new game, charged at him, jumping on him. She threw Warwick off balance, and the two ended up on the floor. Meliny roared with laughter. Warwick growled with irritation as he untangled himself from his dog and started to get his bearings. He calmed himself and allowed the pull to come to him once more. It led him to the bathroom sink, where he opened the medicine cabinet and found the necklace. They played the game several more times with Warwick finding the necklace with increasing ease. Okay, so this might work, but obviously, being in the mountains and so far away, it'll be more difficult, won't it? Meliny asked. I don't think it's going to be a problem, Warwick answered. I really do feel a pull, and after doing all this, the pull feels more direct, you know? Also, did they mention a timetable for their church retreat? How much time do you think we have? No, she answered as she pulled up the notes app on her phone. I didn't hear them say when, but we gotta assume they're making their plans. We need to hurry. I'll make a supply list. Also, until you make me rich as shit, this trip is on your dime. I got chloroformed and thrown in a trunk. They didn't let me pack a bag. All went quiet as Jacoba entered the room. Barrett, Helena, Oliver, and Miriam turned their now undivided attention toward him. Are all the preparations being made? Jacoba asked. Miriam answered, Yes, sir. We are currently gathering all our tents and cooking gear, although many more people want to join us than in past years. I'm estimating we need 30 more tents and at least enough equipment for 2 more cooking stations, not to mention sleeping bags and toiletries. Jacoba's lip pulled into a condescending smile. You are a terrible receptionist, but excellent at linguistics. The rest of them chuckled as Miriam shrank with embarrassment. He continued, Take the church credit card and see to all the supplies, but as always, keep the receipts for the tax deductions. The receptionist nodded and headed for the door. Dreading any more embarrassment, she asked the remaining attendees, Anything else? Barrett answered, With all these new faithfuls coming, we need more weapons and ammunition. Helena groaned with annoyance. Every year, she said, you say the same thing, and we go armed to the teeth every year just to shoot soda cans and cactus. Barrett went to argue, but Oliver beat him to it. Bring lots of guns, and the bigger the better, Oliver said. Barrett and Helena continued their argument as though Oliver said nothing at all. After a moment, Jacoba interrupted them. My new friend Oliver is correct. We need every man and woman on the retreat to be armed. And Barrett, please see to it that we get some larger caliber weapon systems. Barrett, never needing encouragement when it came to violence, just nodded and left the room. The Reverend turned his eye to Helena and said, This time, our efforts will be fruitful and potentially more dangerous. I need you to train our new faithful to be proficient with weapons and how to form a defensive perimeter. Helena swallowed her annoyance, gave him a nod, and followed Barrett out of the room, but not before shooting Oliver a disapproving look. Alone with no targets in sight, he walked the creek and saw a solitary figure up ahead. The Goatman wasn't an unthinking beast. It temporarily tempered its murderous instinct and studied its target in the surrounding area. It decided this was a solo target with no threats. It started its charge, only to skid to a stop, recognizing the figure. Oliver was terrified to see the monster again, but held his ground and pointed to the north. The Goatman took note of the direction and turned that way. As it crested the slope, it saw a large field with people playing a game and spectators on the periphery. The monster turned around, met Oliver eye to eye, and nodded its approval. Stephen was pitching the game of his life. He and his team had had a great season. If they held on to their 3-run lead, they would advance to the Maricopa 35 and older softball league finals. He had only allowed 1 hit the whole game, and his team had a comfortable lead. The catcher waved his hand to the ref and approached the mound. "This is it, Steve. We need 2 more outs, and we're going to the finals?" Steve nodded in approval, but noticed that Nathan Johnson was on deck. Nathan was his rival, and the only person who got a hit off him all night. However, a massive smash went past the creek, a good one. 100 yards. They were up by 3, but he had walked the previous batter. If the current guy got on base and Nathan crushed another one, it would tie the game. His catcher was returning to home base, and Stephen looked over. At the stands, Mary was sitting in the stands cheering for him, and he heard her yell. "Stephen, not Nathan, is smiling." Nathan smiled at her and straightened his back. The batter stepped up to the plate, and Nathan waited for the catcher to give him the call. The catcher put 2 digits down, and Nathan started his windup. The batter surprised him and brought the bat up for a bunt. He landed the bunt perfectly, and it limped down the third base line. The third baseman sprinted after it to toss it to first base, but the batter was too quick and made it there safely. Stephen cursed under his breath and watched his nemesis approach. The plate. Nathan put the bat down by the tip, spit in his hands, rubbed them together to get a better grip, and picked up his bat. He held one hand up to the ref and stepped into the batter's box 1 foot at a time. He twisted each foot in the dirt before lowering his hand to the ref. Stephen glanced over at Mary. She held both hands to her mouth in dread. Everyone in attendance knew Nathan played community college baseball, as he often bragged about it. The man was a good 50 pounds overweight. However, having just turned 35, he was a decade younger than most guys on the field. Stephen waited for the catcher to give him a pitch to throw. It might seem silly to some that any communication between the pitcher and catcher was unnecessary in a slow-pitch softball game. However, as Nathan often explained to Mary, there were subtle differences. One could make the ball rotate with a wrist snap one way or the other, and Stephen was an expert at what he called the talon. The pitcher held the ball in an overhand grip instead of the usual underhand. It allowed for a backward rotating spin that made the batter, if they managed to connect with it, hit the ball on the ground instead of a fly ball, allowing for an easy out. In the major leagues, a fly ball was an almost guaranteed out, as the fielders were young athletes. 45 and up, out-of-shape municipal workers made up the fielded team. Fly balls over 20 feet from any of them were a surefire base hit. Stephen wiped his moist palm on his cut-off jean shorts. After he got his pitch from the catcher, he started his windup. He had perfected the talon, and this pitch he had just thrown was a beauty. It rotated in the night as the lights from the park illuminated it. The crowd hushed as they watched its slow downward slope. Mary accidentally knocked over her Miller Lite as she rushed to cover her eyes. Nathan was the personification of focus as he lined up his swing. Crack! The bat hitting the ball sounded like a shotgun blast to those in attendance. Mary moved her fingers enough to track the ball's movement. It sailed through the night like a comet, heading to the creek and beyond. With a home run, Nathan started his slow trot after flipping his bat. Barry Bonds had nothing on Nathan's swagger. Mary had covered her eyes, afraid to look at Stephen's reaction. This was his big moment of victory. He had been talking about it and stressing for weeks before this game. That young, boastful jerk stole it. The wives on the other side of the stands applauded their champion's mighty swing. Nathan's wife, Samantha, whom Mary despised, slung her Bud Light all around in celebration. Mary said to herself, "The game is only tied, you bitch. You haven't won shit." The drama was cut short when someone yelled, "Look at old Fred. Run!" Mary glanced up and saw Fred, who wasn't a day shy of 60, running for his life back to the stands, screaming something. Someone else yelled, "If old Fred ran that fast before, he could have caught that hit by Nathan." Mary watched in astonishment as Fred sprinted toward her. 2 weeks ago in the semis, she'd watched a fly ball go Fred's way, completely catchable. However, after a short 10-foot sprint, Fred had gassed out, and the center fielder had to run over, fetch the ball, and throw it home, almost costing them the game. When Fred got close enough for anyone to hear, it was bone chilling. "Monster, run!" People had heard of the massacres that had been happening, so this yell had meaning. People screamed and gathered their families and belongings to start their escape. Mary scanned the skyline and made out a monstrous form. Even at 100 yards, this thing dotted out the landscape. The Goatman wasn't moving at first, but a moment later she saw it streaking forward as fast as an arrow. The monster caught up to Fred at second base and kicked him like a soccer ball. Fred soared over the infield and the 25-foot-tall foul ball net. He went straight through the 2-story scoring building/concession stand. Mary froze in terror as she watched the Goatman punch the second baseman with a massive uppercut. It sent the broken man flying toward the pitching mound. Stephen, having watched 2 of his friends get murdered, stood his ground. "You son of a bitch!" He had taken off his glove and put it in his right hand. With a mighty hurl, he threw the leather mitt fast as an arrow and hit the beast square between the eyes. The Goatman, scanning the crowd for its next target, took the hit and focused on her husband. Stephen's act accomplished nothing, but the defiant move made. Mary, proud, straight on top of Stephen's head. The sheer force of the hit caused Mary, who was a good 50 feet away, to lose her footing. She was down to one knee and didn't care to look at the aftermath. A second later, she did a mad sprint of her own toward her sedan. As she sped away, she looked in her rearview mirror. The massive beast held Nathan upside down, an ankle in each clawed hand. Then it tore him in half like a wishbone. "Magnificent," said the Reverend to himself as he watched the bloodbath unfold. When Oliver summoned the monster, Rev, Barrett, and Helena had watched from a distance with binoculars. With the monster's attention fully engrossed in killing as many people as possible, they felt safe enough to get a bit closer to witness it. Oliver was standing next to him. As terrified as he had been to summon his past master, he now started to enjoy himself. When the Goatman picked up one of his victims and used the body as a cudgel to smash anyone in reach, Oliver cheered. Helena turned her back and walked toward their vehicle while Barrett stared. Oliver glanced at him to see if he was impressed. Although Barrett said nothing, Oliver could see a slight smile on the stoic man's face. The Goatman slaughtered over a dozen people before its strength to stay in this realm started to fade. Those who hadn't been fast enough to flee in their vehicles barricaded themselves inside the concession building. The monster lowered its frame and charged at the building just as it started to dissipate. Those watching knew that if the beast had made contact, everyone in the building and the 2-story building itself would have been destroyed. "Get anything you might have brought and get in the car. Leave. Nothing for the police to find," said the Reverend. Barrett said, "I left some cigarette butts over there. Do you really want me to go find them? The cops will have their hands full with this mess." The Reverend turned to look at him and said nothing. After a moment, Barrett suffered the gaze and then turned around, fishing the dirt for his discarded tobacco butts. Oliver and the Reverend stood, watching as survivors left the concession stand to check on their loved ones, hoping some would still be alive. "So, what did you think?" asked Jacoba. "We need to align ourselves with this beast as soon as possible. The fact that you are honoring your pact with the monster cannot be undervalued. We shall serve up as much prey as the beast needs to be everlasting in this realm. With our church as an ally, there would be nothing that could stop us from conquering this nation. Tell me, Oliver, did you ever see any other monsters during the time in the Fade? My studies showed that there are many more." Oliver shook his head. "Nah, but they could have kept their distance. The Goatman isn't a very friendly sort, is he?" The Reverend thought for a moment and said, "They say only in the Fade can these creatures be truly destroyed. Any damage, even death, in this realm only sends the beast home, although they suffer banishment in that regard."